I do.
For the conference, yeah.
Yes, so I want to thank everyone for joining this virtual assistive technology and community living summit. This is the first session in our two-day event. I'm Corey Bernstein. I'm a staff attorney with Disability Rights New Jersey, and I will be your host for this session. And I am joined by Lisa Wern, who's going to give us a presentation on using Whiteboard, the Whiteboard tool. And just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We encourage you to rename your Zoom profile to include your organization if you'd like, to help everyone get a sense of who's participating in the session. And please keep your microphones on mute and videos off to guard against any background noise or distractions. You can use chat area to add comments, share information, or ask questions during the presentation. And there will be some time for Q&A following the presentation. And you may unmute yourself to ask questions or continue to type them in the chat. We are recording this presentation and it will be available within the next few days. If you plan to obtain a certificate of attendance, you must complete a survey at the end of the Excel spreadsheet. There should be a CC button. If you would like captions, please click on the CC button if you'd like captions on the screen. And if there's any problem accessing the captions, you can send me a message or put it in the chat and we can try to fix that. And if Ms. Wern provided handouts, they should be in the session notes of the Excel spreadsheet. You may also add any relevant resources or notes that you'd like to share in the Google Doc. And if you need any help, you can just send me a chat or use the tech support Zoom link to talk to Mike or Naomi, who are running this summit, who can be called in to assist you. But there are just two of them, so please be patient if there are any problems. And with that, I will hand it off to Ms. Wern. I'm excited to get this summit going.
All right, I am going to come on in and share my screen and hope that everything works on the tech end. Sometimes the technology likes me and sometimes it doesn't. So let's go with it. And let me just, I got chat up over here. Correct participants. Okay, so we should be good to go. And as he said, these handouts are in the link directly below our session link where you came in. You'll see that there is a Google Doc link, which is this one right here. And you'll see that I have added the slides link here as well. And go ahead and add your name as a participant. If there are things that pop out to you as you're going on and you want to drop them down in the group notes. If you have questions that I don't get to, feel free to drop them in here with an email address and I will reach back out to you. And again, all of the links and everything that you're going to see is in the linked in the slides. So what we're going to do is talk through a resource called whiteboard.chat. Which I see as a very, very useful instructional tool that the presenters of the software have worked really hard to make accessible to all users. So we are going to jump in. I don't necessarily have to read you my bio. I'm an OT by trade. I have a master's in special education. I'm an AT specialist for Alachua County Public Schools. And have a resident ATP. I'm a dog mom, so if you hear some barking, that is my sweet little girl Lexi. She's sleeping right now, so we're just going to cross our fingers it stays that way. If you want to reach out to me on social media, that's all available there, or again by email. These are the things that I receive money for or would be considered disclosures. None of them are really relevant to what we're talking about today, but in the course of being upfront, they're all there on a slide for you. So we're going to jump in and we're going to talk through what is it, what makes it accessible, what are some of the tools that are available. We're going to dive in and play a little bit because I feel like, especially with a tool like this, that is the best way to learn about it and how you could potentially use it. And then hopefully there'll be some time at the end for questions. The link that is in the bottom resources of that Google Doc is the link to this Wakelet. And the best way for me to describe a Wakelet is it's as if Pinterest and Padlet had a baby. So it is the visual structure you get in Pinterest, and it is the organizational structure that you might get in Padlet. So these are all resources that are directly related to whiteboard.chat. So some of them are overviews of specific activities. Some of them are, this is a full webinar on the new version that they released that we're going to talk about today. How to use Immersive Reader within it. Again, there's a lot of videos and help guides on here. This Wakelet link and the QR code are freely shareable. Please share them out if they are helpful to you and you feel like they would be helpful to staff members or students that you work with. So what is it? How did it come to be? This software, and I do not work for whiteboard.chat. I am an ambassador for them, which doesn't give me any financial payment. I just love the product. When the pandemic hit, the developers of this software are parents of students who were then, like we all were, forced into how do we do this learning from home, hybrid, high flex thing. And as software developers kind of said, you know what, I think we could kind of come up with something that helps meet the issues that my personal kids, their teachers were reporting to them as parents. And that's kind of how it came to be. Again, they do not come from the special education space. They don't come from the education space. They are software developers for other things, but have taken that knowledge and really put it to good use for us in terms of the resources and supports that are there. So just to kind of front load some information about why I would choose it over some other things. It is fully integrated with Microsoft Immersive Reader. So any text that's on the page is readable, and it is also editable. So if for some reason it recognizes something incorrectly, you can go in and edit that text so that it reads it correctly. I think the place I find most often is sometimes student names or intricate curriculum, topics. There is a website option that disables video and chat. If your students are some people who would get super distracted by that, there is an option to just not even have it as an option. It includes both speech to text transcription and translation, and we're going to look at that. And that same transcription and translation is available in the chat. This is one of the first places I have seen do this, to where as you are using the chat, that student can see your chat message in the language that is native to them, and vice versa. When they send a message back, it can be translated into English for you as the teacher or instructor or supporter. You can embed and record audio instructions. So if they're working through an assignment, you can go in and put in specific audio that reads the instructions to them if they didn't want to use Immersive Reader, or breaks down a problem. Hey, remember, for this problem, this strategy is a really great, a great strategy to use. There are tons of writing supports in there. We're going to look at a couple of them when we play. And like many other softwares, you can upload or embed your own written work. So if a student was working out a math problem on a piece of paper, they could take a picture of it right then and embed it onto their whiteboard that the teacher could grade. There's digital manipulatives and widgets. You can set up a whiteboard and send it to a student, and they can do it self-paced, or you can kind of force it so that it follows you along. One of their last kind of updates to it were pretty much every function that you see me do with a mouse, there is a keyboard keystroke for now. It's one of the things we went back to them and said, hey, this is one of the places that you aren't as accessible as we would like, and they within 48 hours had that option. And yeah, Karen, like you're saying in the chat, it is amazing to me that not being in the special ed space, they built in those inclusive features from the very start. And again, there are a lot of places where these would benefit all kids and not just a student maybe who has a disability in that area. So when you first launch or open up the website, which is literally whiteboard.chat, there's a couple of options. You'll see this pop-up box. So Start Teaching would open up a teaching board that everyone could view, and that every student kind of gets that board file, a copy of it that they are going through and doing their work in. Start Collaborating is what you would maybe think of as a typical collaboration whiteboard space. Everyone's in the same file. You can still have more than one page, so student could be assigned page 2 in your big file, but everyone's in one space. And then that last option is to manage boards. That's where you could go in, and I'll show you what that looks like, and open up a different board or save a board or make a copy of a board. All those options are there. And then the very last thing you see there is joining by a code. There are basically 3 ways you could join a whiteboard.chat file, and this is you as a staff doing training, or for students in a classroom, they can enter a classroom code. So as soon as they come in, they would just click start drawing and then enter the code right there and join their class. You can also share by a QR code that it automatically generates. And you can also share a link itself, just like you would for a Google file, share a link with people as well. So this is what the interface looks like when you first get started. And I kind of wanted to talk through it before I take you in, because there are a couple layers to it, which is why I labeled it like I did. The menu that's on the far left is kind of the quick launch menu, right? There are a lot of tools showing there, but you can also adjust what tools show up for you and what tools show up for the student, right? Across the top is where you could name your board. You've got the code to connect. You could also download your board. Let's say you wanted to send home the board to a student who did it, but maybe wanted to review it again as a PDF. You could download it just as a PDF to send home or post in your Google Classroom or Canvas. This next set is kind of your changing toolbar. So if you messed up, there's that magical undo and redo buttons to refresh it, change the zoom factor. And these tools do change based on the function you select over here. So if you pick a text tool, some typical kind of WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get editing tools show up in terms of the size of the text and the font that you would use. This bar over here is kind of, this is my favorite, one of my favorite tools that they built in, this little flower. I call it the distraction reset. They change it out periodically. I think the summer one is still on, where if you as a teacher touch this, it kind of sends this cascade of little characters or images down. In the fall, they had leaves falling, and it just kind of resets everybody. All right, take a minute. We're going to send this down. It's also fun for kids and sometimes used as a reinforcer. Shows whether you're logged in or not. Just like in Google, these little 3 dots take you to other menus. The settings allow you to adjust settings both for you as a user and the whole board. And then this is that invite button where you could bring up a QR code and other things. If you have the thumbnail view selected, that's what this is up over here. The important thing to know about the thumbnail view is that when you have it up to quickly see and navigate, it makes your board read only. So you can't go in and change things. You're just navigating, then you turn thumbnail view off and your full board space shows up again. This is that whiteboard space. This allows you to go through again, change the page you're on, open up this thumbnail view quickly, or just click to manage your boards, which takes you into kind of where all your boards are. On the far right are objects you have maybe saved, widgets, gizmos, and being able to kind of search through things. This is one of those things I wanted to preface by saying, I know it's a lot of tools and it's overwhelming, but I think it's important to have this quick view of where are all these things that I might use. To break down the tools, and I promise I'm not going to read through every tool, I just wanted to show you, anytime you see this little arrow, this little triangle next to a tool, it means there are more tools here, right? There are more tools than I can go through in an hour, but very basic, just clicking and typing, getting a text editor. You could get rich text formatting if they needed to bold their answers. If you just wanted to drop in a text box to put an answer in, there's a math editor, and then you can also do handwriting that it will work to recognize. Those are text tools. This little upload or up arrow is what you would think it would be. I want to upload something into the cloud, into this whiteboard program. It could be a file from your computer or Google Drive. If you upload a bingo board, it automatically makes an individual bingo board for every student. Okay, it takes it and makes it different. There's gameplay, a PDF that's linked, a live worksheet, or something right from your phone as a scanner, right? Lots of powerful ways to get things in. Drawing tools are what you think they are. Draw a line, draw an arrow, draw a shape. If you guys are familiar with Jamboard, which is one of my other loves, you'll know it. There's an auto draw tool. In whiteboard.chat, they call that magic draw. So that gives you the ability to go in and start drawing. I think you'll see one page. I started to draw a bicycle. I am not an artist by any means, but they were able to guess what it is I was going after. Okay. All these little hearts next to it mean if there's a tool that you use on an ongoing basis, you can favorite it so that it pops out onto your main menu. If you click and draw all the time, because you're preparing an art activity and you need that, or you want to have the magic draw on the ready, you can favorite it with that little heart. And yeah, Teresa, there are tons of tools, and I'm scratching the surface of the features that are available here. Your little tool suitcase has things like automatic grading. If you are a smartboard user from way back, and you were a fan of the infinite cloner, it's one of the things we asked specifically, can you replicate it? Because I loved it as a smartboard user. You can also make a drop zone that we'll talk about that then is able to do things. This breakdown tool, the place I have used it most often is if you are doing hundreds manipulatives and you have your hundreds, you can use your breakdown tool to break it into 10 bars. Okay. And if you're a math teacher, you know exactly what I mean. There are tons of settings. Again, you can adjust what can a student do, what can they not do. If your board is for a test and you don't want them to have immersive reader options because you want them to read it for some reason, or if you want them to not be able to upload or do video recording, all of these things are settings and options. And then this is the settings for your board specifically. If you know your students are all using iPads, you can make that screen size, make everything fit on their iPad screen, or if you know they're using Chromebooks, you can make it fit on that screen size. Change the defaults tool, what students can see. Remember, I told you it could be simple tools only. And you can go in and just have it only show 4 or 5 tools for those students. Or very simple tools and only these 4 functions are available. If you are working in a school district where they want everything to be tied to a student login, you can set it so that only logged in users can join your board. Today, it's not set that way because I didn't want you guys to have to log in, right? There are tons of other features. Again, people always ask that question, how much does it cost? At its core, there is a free plan. Okay, you can make up to 10 boards, which you could use across your day. They start out with what they call a lifespan of 7 days, but you can go in and extend that on and on and on and on and on. Okay, they've added a couple of educator-based ads onto the teachers' boards, but nothing onto the student boards. And then there are 3 plans that you pay per month or per year, very reasonable pricing. And they change the features in terms of all the way up to being able to save unlimited boards and you don't have to go in and refresh it. They're working with schools and school districts and other places, other companies to get discounts and dedicated support and training and things. But at its core, you as an educator can use this for free. Want to pause for a second and see if there are any questions about what I've kind of talked through so far. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question and you want to ask it by audio instead. I'm going to take a sip of coffee while I see. Keep seeing a black rectangle in the screen on my Google Slides. Huh. I mean, I have this rectangle on the right that is just blank space because I'm in is it covering part of the screen, Karen? Well, that's annoying.
Huh. Yeah, that's not coming up on my, oh, now I see it, yes.
Hold on, I'm wondering if it is this, hold on. I think it's my controls. Let me hide that and see if it goes away. I think it's my Zoom controls, that just the floating control bar. So hopefully when it goes away.
There it is.
That's
Perfect.
exactly what it is.
Perfect. I love it
It's
when
your
it's
Zoom
an easy
control.
answer. So I want to jump in and play. Like I said, there's a bunch of different ways. It makes a QR code that you can open up automatically. So you could open it on your iPad. You can open it on your phone. You can click this link if you're in the slides, and I am going to drop the long join link into the chat box. That's what you get when you click here. You can also go to whiteboard.chat, like I said, and put in this classroom code, which I don't think I can copy it. Hold on. And now the loading panel comes back up because Zoom hates me. So I'm going to jump over into, now that the link is in the chat box, I'm going to jump over and I'm going to show you what the instructor board looks like. I can see lots of you have jumped in. And I'm going to show you what the instructor board looks like. Your board's going to look a little different, right? And I'll show you the student end in a second. But you'll see I've got a bunch of tools here. I've got a bunch of things. I also have a grid view. So what I love about this product is I can click the grid view and it opens up all of your boards. And I can see who has engaged in things, what people have done. And there's also engagement statistics that it takes automatically, which I love. It shows you how much time are you on task, what's the trend in what you've been doing and what you haven't been doing. So that is that grid view that's on the bottom. It also does a couple of things. So I put in a spinner here that is a student name spinner. I didn't type you guys' names in. I didn't know who was going to be in this setting, this session. It automatically pulls your names in when you enter the board, and then I can go in and spin it on your board and be like, okay, it's gonna be, I don't know why it takes forever. Teresa's turn to do something. So that's a spinner I can add, and it automatically pulls in your names however you do it. So this over here is one of those objects that you can pull in. Let's say you're kindergarten or first grade and you're working on making CVC or other words. This isn't, this is one example of a B. B has a sound like in B. Like, let's put the word together. You can also move it. When I click on it, I get a bunch of different options. And some of them are, have I given the right for a student to move this around? So I have moved all these things around. You'll see I just got a pop-up on my screen that a student needs my help. Danielle said, hey, I need help with something. Or in this case said, hey, I need to take the bathroom break. That's where I went. I'll let you know when I'm back. I get a message. I could pop over and help her. Or I could say, great, she's going to the bathroom. Thanks for letting me know, and clear that message out and keep teaching. These are little extra pieces of information that you can add as a little picture. This is an example of that handwriting recognition. So I'm going to get my write tool, and I'm going to come in and get handwrite. Now I'm using a mouse, not a tablet, so don't judge my handwriting. But if I were to come in and start to write, you'll see a screen popped up on the right-hand side where it gives me all the possible recognitions for that text, right? Given some options of, I maybe didn't mean for it to be capitalized, but I wrote it that way. I can just click that little plus to the right, and it drops that word in text format that I could now then move around. Like I could come and get my move tool and pick up that hello and move it around. Let's say we wanted everybody to use their, handwrite tool to go in and write a vocabulary word, right? So those are the examples I put on page 1. Page 2, I think I left blank for you guys to play. Sometimes it takes a second. Okay, so this is an example of that hundreds block like I showed you. I could come in and I could get that break tool, right? My breakdown, the little hammer, could come in and get the breakdown tool, and it magically breaks it into 10 blocks instead of one big 100 block. Okay. I am going to get my little move and resize tool. I could go in and I could say, all right, a student can move and clone those. So now they could go in as a student and play around with that. They've added, you'll see I've right now got the crosshairs plus arrows. They've added a little indicator on the right-hand side that says, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, nothing is showing up when you're doing those pop-ups and those right arrows on the teacher screen. Like click on that and it doesn't do anything.
You aren't seeing the menu.
Thank you. I am not seeing the menu.
Okay, well, that is super interesting. All right, I'm gonna just stop sharing real quick and go back in. Zoom is being super persnickety here.
There's always glitches with technology, right?
Gotta love technology. Like my Zoom window, when I exit out of full screen, doesn't even show me choices to reshare now.
Yeah, mine's.
Like it's all white out instead of. That's something I've not ever seen before.
I'm gonna send a message to Naomi quickly. Because that would be why I can't see anything and you're not seeing pieces of the share. I guess I'm glad to know it's not just me. While he's doing that, what questions do you guys have about what you've seen so far?
I just want to say this is an awesome tool. Really excited to see how responsive they are and how they're adding in new inclusive features. Although with new features comes complexity, which and it would be nice if if Jamboard would add some of those similar features because many teachers are so used to Jamboard.
Right. And that's that, there are times when I love using Jamboard and there are times when I default to whiteboard. And I love what they did when they came out they just released what they're calling version 2.0. And they did a couple of things like enable you to just show certain tools for the students, which I think has helped because I think it's made it such that you can streamline it a little bit on the student's end and yet still have a very powerful software on the teacher's end. But I agree, it's that fine line between we want it to do lots of really cool things. And yet at the same time, if it's so complex that a student or teacher gets turned off, you're like, whoa, that's not a good option either.
Have you seen that your educators, that your colleagues are using it because of the professional development you've been providing them?
I think there's a couple reasons they're going that direction. Some of it is the PD either that I'm providing or that's available from whiteboard.chat already. Some of their YouTube channel is incredible in terms of videos and helps. And there are teachers that have grabbed onto it, teachers of kids who have lots of mixed ethnicities in their classes are utilizing it because of some of the features of auto translate, like in the chat box or when people type text in. Like if you are looking at your teacher, your student board on page 3, you'll see there's this little button underneath your hundreds block that's now 10 blocks is something in Spanish followed by something in English. And that's something that I did by speech to text. So I just used the speech translation tool and I said, ¿Cómo estás? And it wrote the Spanish text and it put the bracketed translated English text, because I told it ahead of time I wanted it in English, and put it right down there. So in terms of like features and tools, most of my elementary staff that I've done training with still prefer things like Jamboard. But when you get into some of the other complexities or for very specific purposes, whiteboard.chat is where I'm seeing a lot of staff, not just in my area, but other places use it. Any forward progress there with the fact that our screens are all white?
Yeah, I reached out to Naomi and Mike, and I'm just waiting to get in contact with one of them. I apologize for the delay here.
Hi, I'm back. What's up?
So my share screen and my screen as a co-host is all whited out except for the video, and so is his.
Yeah.
So I have no share function. So
Right.
Back to
Thank
it.
you, Mike. Apologies for that.
No, don't sweat it. It's fine.
all right, let's see if I can do a speedy version of the rest of this. We'll see what we can do. So I was just talking about this translation feature down here. And I put on the basic tools for you guys, but I'm going to go back to the instructor board and show you when I come into text tools. I have a ton of tools. When I come down to upload, you'll see all the upload things that were there. And when I come down here, you'll see all of those extra tools. So you're seeing the tool pop-ups now.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you. Perfect. I didn't want to like assume otherwise and not be correct. So when I come in here, there's a bunch of other tools. Like I said, like I can come in and just click and type. Now, when I go to click and type, you'll see this extra speech to text functionality that popped up, where I could start typing. All right, it's not translating because I'm not doing speech to text. If I come and click the button and say, like I did before, ¿Cómo estás ustedes? Doesn't like my last version of line, but it tries to translate if I were an actual speaker and not dropping in other lines. And you'll see that there are a ton of languages that native speaker could go in and speak in their native language and have it translated again to one of those other languages. I have had a student utilize this as they were completing work to speak their answers, have the English answer come down. And again, I don't care if they answer it in Spanish or in English if they get the right answer, but the teacher needs to know what that right answer is, right? Otherwise, it's kind of difficult to be able to do that. So Time Machine allows you to kind of go back in. It's one of the tools that's there. Like I can go backwards in this file. It's captured all of the things the actions that I've done. And actually, if you as the student wanted to go back, I could go back, I don't know, these 5 steps and play it, and it actually will play all of the things I've added to that board over the time that I've added them. So it's kind of like a time capture of the video of all the things that have been done in this board, which is useful for if you have it turned on for a student who wasn't there that day in class, but wants to see how did that teacher work out the math problem. They don't just want to see the worked out math problem. Does that answer your question, Karen? Yes, it would replay in student view if I didn't have simple tools on. So let me go see if I can take off. I'll take off all of the simple tool functions for you. And now you have all the tools, or you should. And Time Machine should be one of them. So you should be able to go back and do that same thing. It allows you to embed websites. That's this National Geographic website that's there, which allows you to minimize how a student might need to leave that to go to a website and come back. You can embed the website so that they only see what you wanted them to see on the video. Like this happens to be the homepage of National Geographic Kids, but I could go to a very specific game on National Geographic Kids and embed it. Yeah, Karen, and I think Time Machine is fantastic for the flip side, for you as the instructor to see how did that student work out this problem if you weren't watching them do it live. Exactly. So on that next page of the instructor board on page 4, I embedded a YouTube video, just waiting for it to actually appear because sometimes there's a delay when I ask it to change pages. There we go. So I embedded a YouTube video. For some reason, it's ridiculously large on the student page. It's probably user error, but I embedded a YouTube video, which you could then just watch the YouTube video, not have to worry about them going to another video or other places, right? There are special dice. You can set it so that there are fraction dice. So I could roll, the student could roll fraction dice and do fraction math. You could roll, yeah, and it tells me when a student, has rolled the dice. I'm going to come back to the instructor board for just a second. I think what I'm going to end up having to do is go in and record a little overview video that we can post because there are some features that I didn't get to. So on this side, you'll see there's gizmos, which is where I got those letters. There are ASL letters, English letters, other alphabets, animals, people, currency, experiments, specific festivals, math symbols, all these things are there. And then the other thing that's there is widgets. That's where I got the spinner of student names. That's where I built the tiles in Factory Tile. That's where I went in. And you could actually have it do coding for writing software. You can put a xylophone in that you can play if you wanted to get the attention of your class. You can add a xylophone onto your board. And the student signals are something that's relatively new to them. And I love it because it's like, how's everybody doing? Are you getting this? They could give you a thumbs up signal on their board that, yeah, you know what, I've got it. And if you're not seeing that, you're like, whoa, no, not getting it, need to do some more. So I'm going to jump back because I know we don't have a ton of time and just give you some resources, right? This is their help. All of these things are available by going to this website. If you go to this and there's a little question mark, it brings you to the help and what's new, gives you the access to the training, the top 100 features, how to use it for Microsoft Teams. They're now a Microsoft partner, a teacher's guide, a student's guide, both of which are in the Wakelet, math input guides, and then all the help and tutorial guides that you could ever want. Some of those things, again, are in the Wakelet. Some of them are things that I left in that help and what's new, okay? There are a ton of resources. So in the few minutes we have left, in the chat box or unmute yourself, how do you think you could use a feature as an accessible learning tool? What's one feature that kind of jumped out at you? Yeah, I agree, Karen. The translation to me is huge. It's one of the reasons I would recommend it over Jamboard, and you know how much of a Jamboard lover I am. And I didn't even show you the chat feature, but you can have the student chat up, and as you're writing an English version, they're getting a Spanish version in chat, which is just kind of mind-blowing. Yes, speech recognition, whether they're writing or you want it to translate and while they're writing. Text to speech and speech to text being available. Absolutely everything. Yeah, it is, trying to kind of pare it down enough that you get a picture of all it can do without you going, oh my gosh, it does too much, I don't want to be using it, is a challenge. Yeah, and if you're building a board for students, you can go in and say, oh, I love that, they're able to do this, or that. Okay, so the fall one is still here. So this is what I was meaning, like it's just a reset. Okay, we're taking a little visual break. I'm going to drop in things that are fall just as a reset so that people kind of see, all right, let's take a break. Let's move forward. Let's do what's next. The replay feature is huge. That time machine was like a game changer for a lot of kids. And they have done a great job of, like, I'm doing a tab right now of making it accessible by keystroke. So every function it's scanning. So you could technically have a switch scanning user use this site. Tab and enter work for all of the functions. If I were to do a tab and enter, it goes in and pulls up. I will leave this student board open. So if you want to go in and play around with the feature, try or build your own instructor board. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to go in and answer them. You can use this sheet that's got all our participants, which we're going to have to go back and go to the version history because it looks like somebody deleted all the participants. We will fix that. All right, any questions? Sorry, David, I dropped your brain full. And if you're overwhelmed by tech tools, I can make a cell for my next session right after this one, which is tech tools to make you work smarter and not harder. So yes, go dig deep, explore, check out their YouTube channel, check out the stuff in the Wakelet and just play around. Try it with some students. I use it sometimes in professional development because I think it's a great way to show some interesting features and everything within one space. And again, you have my contact information. This slide has both my kind of Twitter and Instagram username, my email, the link to this slide, and then the link to the full AT website if you want to jump back to see what else is being offered next. And I will stop talking in case there's anything else that needs to be said at the outro. I'm going to get with Mike about recording a session from start to end that